My roommate, after one too many drinks, decided to impersonate my crush, Ethan, on the campus confession page and post a declaration of love for me, using his actual name. It wasn't just a simple confession either. It was an over-the-top gush fest, praising me to the skies in the most embarrassingly devoted, almost sycophantic way. The next morning, when the alcohol haze cleared, the four of us stared in stunned silence at the aftermath. I swear, for the remaining 3 years of college, I will never ever let these treasure roommates of mine touch alcohol again. Not even a single bottle. Last night was Olivia's birthday, and conveniently, the next day was Saturday. After some clandestine planning, the four of us bought a mountain of snacks and takeout, then stealthily smuggled a case of beer back to the dorm. Our collective alcohol tolerance was laughably low. Sharing one case between 4 girls resulted in utter chaos and universal drunkenness. Once intoxicated, I devolved into a blubbering mess, pouring out the woes of my year-long secret crush on Ethan. The recounting quickly dissolved into tears. Then, Olivia slammed her hand down on the desk. All right, stop crying like a baby. Hold on. She huddled with the other 2 roommates, whispering conspiratorially for a moment before grabbing her phone and furiously typing away. Dizzy and confused, I waited. After what felt like an eternity, I heard a triumphant done. Olivia shoved her phone screen in my face. It showed a chat log with the admin of the campus confession page. But the profile picture, why was it Ethan's? The tone of the messages mimicked his usual cool, slightly detached style perfectly. Staring wide-eyed, it finally dawned on me. They had created a fake account, perfectly mimicking his, and submitted a confession as him. As for the content, it was mortifying. Hey confession page, this is Ethan Chan from computer science. I've had a crush on Chloe Xia, also in CS, for a year now. Every day, I can only watch her secretly from a distance, slowly getting closer under the guise of friendship, carefully hiding my feelings. I'm terrified someone will see how much I like her. She's just too wonderful. The most beautiful, kindest, cutest girl I've ever met, with the best personality. Okay, that part was pure fabrication. I definitely wasn't best body material. I've kept these words bottled up for so long, but today I finally had to say them. I'm confessing publicly using my real name. I hope everyone can leave messages of support and help me win my goddess's heart. In our drunken state, none of the 4 of us saw anything remotely wrong with this. We huddled together, excitedly fantasizing about the blissful future Ethan and I would have once the confession went live. The harsh light of morning, however, brought brutal clarity. The 4 of us stared at the actual post on the confession page, jaws collectively on the floor. We sat in stunned silence, clutching our phones for what felt like an eternity. Finally, Olivia broke the silence, her voice barely a whisper. Chloe, maybe you should go find Ethan and explain? No. I shrieked, my voice cracking. The humiliation was crushing. How could I possibly face him now? The confession page comments section had exploded. Ethan was relatively well known on campus, partly notorious for his willingness to fight. But he wasn't just a brawler. He excelled academically and possessed striking good looks. With his penchant for white shirts and black pants, when he wasn't throwing punches, he epitomized the cool, unattainable white moonlight archetype. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the comments, bracing myself for a torrent of abuse. Surprisingly, there were actually a few scattered messages of blessing. Even more bizarrely, one comment read, I always thought Ethan treated that girl Chloe a little differently. Suspected he liked her back then, turns out I was right. The craziest part? Several people had replied, agreeing with her. Ethan liked me? Even a fool knew that was impossible. The 4 of us debated for ages. I wanted Olivia to post a retraction on the confession page, clarifying the situation. After all, Ethan's reputation was also at stake. But Olivia hesitated, digging her heels in. After much prodding, the truth came out. She was terrified Ethan would hunt her down and beat her up. Patiently, I tried to reason with her. Think about it. What if Ethan does actually like me? Then you actually did him a huge favor. He'd be thanking you. To add weight to my argument, I pulled up the confession post again, scrolling past the insults to find that one supportive comment chain. Olivia glanced at it, then looked back at me with an expression of utter disbelief, as if staring at a complete idiot. Chloe, she began, her tone laden with pity. I don't want to burst your bubble, but let's be realistic. Even thinking with our butts, we know that's highly unlikely. Oh, ouch. Right in the insecurities. While I was trying to convince Olivia, my phone suddenly buzzed. I glanced down and froze. It was Ethan. After a few seconds of paralysis, I slowly opened the message. It was from his actual WeChat account. He'd sent only one sentence. Sorry, don't know who pulled this prank, pretending to be me on the confession page. So, he hadn't even suspected it originated from my side. This put me in an awkward position. Confess or play dumb. Torn between honesty and cowardice. Cowardice ultimately won. I lied. It's okay. I figured it had to be some kind of prank. After careful consideration, I cautiously added, as long as you're not bothered by it. I was worried it might affect your reputation. His reply was swift, just 2 words. It won't. What exactly it won't meant I wasn't sure. Won't bother him? Won't affect his reputation? Our brief, awkward exchange ended with me sending a generic smiley emoji. I spent the rest of the morning lying catatonically on my bed before Olivia and the others dragged me out. Come on, time for lunch. Olivia looked at me guiltily. Chloe, I'm really sorry. But anyway, Ethan doesn't know we did it. He'll probably post his own clarification anyway. Maybe just pretend nothing happened? If he asks, just plead ignorance. I nodded reluctantly. That seemed like the only option now. Ethan would surely post a clarification, protecting his own image. The worst outcome would be speculation pointing towards me as the orchestrator. I couldn't really blame Olivia, I kind of owed her one. Her freshman year boyfriend disaster was partly my fault. Back then, rumors were flying about Ethan and the campus belle Serena. Feeling miserable, I dragged Olivia out drinking. Fueled by alcohol, Olivia started complaining about her boyfriend. I joined in, adding my own drunken criticisms. Egged on by my negativity, Olivia impulsively called her boyfriend and broke up with him. He clearly, hurt, agreed immediately. The next day, sober and filled with regret, Olivia tried to reconcile, only to find she'd been blocked. Sigh. Karma's a bitch. What goes around comes around. Fate, it seemed, enjoyed irony. As I reached the entrance to the cafeteria, I ran smack into Ethan. Literally. We were both heading for the glass doors, me going in, him coming out. Pretending not to see each other was impossible. Beside me, Olivia tensed instantly, her body rigid with obvious nervousness. Ethan glanced at her quizzically, then his gaze shifted to me. Meeting his eyes, I had no choice but to offer a greeting. Oh hi. Fancy seeing you here. Yeah. He offered a small smile. It's already past 1. You should eat on time, or you'll get stomach aches. His unexpected concern threw me off balance. Blinking, I nodded quickly. Right. Okay, I will. Just as I was wondering how to gracefully end the conversation, my eyes caught something. A tiny white smudge near the corner of his lips. Looked like yogurt. Coincidentally, I had a small packet of tissues in my pocket. I quickly pulled one out and offered it to him. You've got something on your mouth. Ethan seemed to pause for a fraction of a second. When he didn't take the tissue, my brain short-circuited. On impulse, I reached out and actually dabbed at his lip with the tissue myself. Oh. Time seemed to freeze. Beside me, Olivia whipped her head around, her eyes wide with a mixture of shock and what looked suspiciously like approval. I was horrified. What had I just done? The only person who remained relatively calm was Ethan. After a brief moment of stillness, he recovered, took the tissue from my hand, wiped his mouth again himself, and then chuckled softly. Thanks. Before I could formulate a response, someone behind me called Ethan's name. I turned. Long black hair, a simple white dress. No heavy makeup needed to enhance her stunning beauty. It was Serena, our campus belle. Maybe it's just that exceptionally beautiful girls carry a certain aura. But the moment I saw Serena, my courage evaporated. I quickly turned back to Ethan, lowering my voice. Well, you seem busy. I'll go get lunch. Without waiting for a reply, I mumbled a hasty bye, grabbed Olivia's arm, and practically dragged her into the cafeteria. I had to admit I was a coward. Especially when faced with Serena, a wave of inadequacy washed over me. Only once safely inside the cafeteria did I dare to sneak a peek back. Ethan and Serena were walking side by side. Just as they reached the corner, Serena suddenly linked her arm through his. The next second, they disappeared around the bend. I stared blankly in that direction, feeling utterly crestfallen. Olivia patted my shoulder sympathetically, her voice filled with righteous indignation. Why did you run off like that? So what if she's the campus belle? Serena Gao is just crushing on him too. It's not like they're actually dating. My mind was stuck on the image of Serena linking arms with Ethan. My mood plummeted. If he's not even interested in the campus belle, I mumbled miserably, what chance do I have? I knew my place. But Olivia suddenly cupped my face, examining it closely. Chloe, honestly, she said seriously, your features are just as good as Serena's, maybe even better. If you lost a little weight, you'd definitely be prettier than her. Ah yes, if I lost weight, the eternal caveat. I knew I wasn't ugly. Objectively, I was probably even considered pretty. But slightly chubby. Microfat, as the term went. I was already vigilant about managing my weight. That's why I was only slightly chubby. If I let myself go, I'd likely balloon up quickly. Some people just have that body type, the kind that seems to gain weight just by breathing air. Shaking my head, I dropped the subject and headed towards the food counter with Olivia. Remembering the scene outside, I lost my appetite for anything substantial and ordered only a vegetable salad. A foolish fantasy flickered. What if I really tried harder to lose weight? Could Ethan maybe possibly actually notice me then? To my surprise, a week passed. The confession page filled with new posts, new drama, but Ethan's clarification never appeared. Someone had impersonated him, posted all those embarrassing gushing words about me, and he didn't care? After wrestling with myself, I couldn't resist sending him a WeChat message to ask about it. Ethan replied quickly, his tone nonchalant. It's fine. Everyone will forget about it in a few days. Unsure how to respond, I just sent back a week. Okay. But things didn't unfold as Ethan predicted. Perhaps because there was no follow-up, no retraction. The nearly week-old post resurfaced, gaining new attention and a fresh wave of comments. This time the comments section was far less friendly. While the initial reactions were mostly skeptical, the new wave brought outright hostility. Accusations flew. I must have orchestrated the whole thing myself. I was shameless, I was desperate. Many charmingly offered to crowdfund a mirror for me. Scrolling through, I noticed most of these venomous comments came from other girls. I'm not emotionally resilient. Reading those comments gutted me. I lost my appetite completely for several days. The silver lining? Thanks to them, I actually lost a couple of pounds, a rare occurrence. But then on Friday, Ethan, the same Ethan who claimed not to care, contacted the confession page admin and had the post deleted. And then I heard he was hospitalized. The rumor was, he got into a fight over Serena. Hearing this, a knot of anxiety tightened in my chest. I carefully tried to gather more details. The story went that Ethan had fought another guy from our department because of Serena. That guy apparently came from a local family, his father some kind of construction contractor. Furious after being beaten up, the guy rounded up a group of workers armed with tools and cornered Ethan in a dead-end alley near the school late one night. The result? Ethan ended up with a fractured left leg. It would be a lie to say I wasn't jealous, hearing he fought over Serena. But overriding the jealousy was worry. My roommates urged me to visit him in the hospital, but I didn't dare. Ethan and I had known each other for a while, but only as casual acquaintances, the nodding in the hallway type. We weren't close enough for hospital visits. Especially now, after the whole confession page scandal. How could I possibly show my face? However, that evening while Olivia and I were watching a movie on her laptop in the dorm, she suddenly clutched her stomach, groaning in pain. Her face went deathly pale, and she collapsed onto her bed. Terrified, I helped her out of the dorm, hailed a taxi, and rushed her to the nearest hospital. At the hospital, I was about to head for the emergency room registration when Olivia stopped me. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she gasped. Go inpatient ward, my uncle works there. Ask him to check me out. Okay, having connections in a hospital definitely helps. I supported her towards the inpatient building. But on the second floor of the inpatient ward, as Olivia directed me towards a specific room, our other two roommates suddenly sprang out from a nearby stairwell. Without a word, they shoved a plastic bag into my hands and then physically pushed me through the doorway of the room Olivia had indicated. Completely bewildered, I stumbled inside and saw Ethan lying in the hospital bed. I'd been set up. I glanced down at the bag thrust into my hands. It was full of fruit. Looking back, Olivia, who moments ago had been sweating and doubled over in agony, was now standing in the doorway, grinning cheekily at me. Seeing me look back, she gave me an encouraging "go get him" gesture before thoughtfully pulling the door closed behind me. Oh, when did Olivia become such a convincing actress? I had been genuinely terrified for her, completely forgetting about Ethan's hospitalization, making absolutely no connection on the way over. Forced into the situation, the duck thrust onto the stage. I clutched the bag of fruit and walked hesitantly towards the bed. Ethan had a private room. Just one patient bed and a fold-out cot for visitors. He was alone, no one keeping him company. "Are you okay?" I asked softly, approaching the bed and placing the fruit on the bedside table. My gaze drifted down to his left leg, encased in a plaster cast. It must hurt a lot. Ethan leaned back against the pillows, looking up at me with a faint, wry smile. His tone was deliberately casual. "It's fine. School rumors are always exaggerated. It's just a fracture, nothing too serious." I didn't know much about medical terms, but fracture still sounded incredibly painful. Noticing his lips looked dry, I poured him a glass of water from the pitcher. "Is no one here looking after you?" Ethan took the water, sipping it. "Nah. My roommates are all busy gaming online." Mentally, I cursed his roommates. Then, half sincerely, half politely, I offered, "Well, should I stay and help take care of you?" To my surprise, Ethan agreed immediately. "Okay, sure." He smiled, his eyes clear and bright. "Thanks, that'd be great." And just like that, I somehow became Ethan's designated caregiver. When I relayed this development to our dorm group chat, the other three seemed even more excited than I was. "Really? Congrats, congrats. Strike while the iron is hot. Go for it. Get him. Claim him. Don't worry, we already squared things with the dorm supervisor for you." Oh, what on earth were they talking about? Putting my phone away, remembering Olivia's crude "get him, claim him" message, I glanced back at Ethan and felt a blush creep up my neck. However, things were about to get even more blush-worthy. Ethan didn't just have a fracture. Apparently, when he was cornered in that alley, it had been pouring rain. He'd been soaked for a long time and had developed a fever. That explained the foredrip attached to his arm when I arrived. About half an hour into my caregiving duties, Ethan looked at me apologetically. Could you maybe help me get to the bathroom?" Startled, I quickly agreed, helping him ease off the bed. With one leg injured, he had to hop on his good leg, leaning heavily on me, all the way to the bathroom door. Thankfully, it was a private room with an ensuite. However, once inside, Ethan stood awkwardly by the toilet, his forehand unusable, and looked back at me expectantly. I froze. What did this mean? Surely he didn't expect me to help him with his pants? After a long, awkward silence, I stammered, Do you need help with?" Ethan seemed taken aback too. Was it my imagination, or did his face flush slightly? No, just, could you hold the fore bag for me?" "Oh, right." The fore pole was outside. He couldn't unhook himself. I quickly handed him the bag, hung it on the hook inside the bathroom, and practically fled back into the room. Closing the door behind me, I let out a huge sigh of relief. What was I thinking? Soon, the sound of the toilet flushing came from the bathroom, followed by the door opening. I quickly went back to help him hop back to the bed. As my hand touched his arm, his body seemed to tense slightly, followed by a soft cough. For the rest of the time, we studiously avoided eye contact, both engrossed in our phones, the silence thick with unspoken awkwardness. Later, as I was drifting off on the caregiver cot, I suddenly heard Ethan's voice, soft in the quiet room. "The confession post?" he asked gently. "Was that you?" I froze instantly. Huh. Sleepiness vanished in a flash. My mind went completely blank. How should I answer? Almost involuntarily, I looked up at him. Ethan was leaning against the headboard, watching me, his eyes clear and focused. He looked serious, waiting patiently for my answer. After several moments of internal struggle, I took a deep breath and chose honesty. "Yes." Ethan's eyes seemed to brighten perceptibly. He sat up straighter, the movement apparently jarring his injured leg, making him wince. Yet he pressed on urgently. "Can I ask why?" Remembering Olivia's tearful face, her fear of Ethan's retribution, I gritted my teeth and decided to take the fall myself. I drank too much that night." Ethan paused, and the sudden dimming of his expression almost tricked me into thinking he was disappointed. I quickly backpedaled. I don't handle alcohol well." When I get drunk, well, things happen. Please don't mind. Silence descended on the room again. He didn't speak and I didn't dare say more. The tension was palpable. After a long moment, a soft chuckle broke the silence from the bed. Don't worry about it, he said lightly. Actually, I should thank you. You probably saved me from a lot of unwanted attention. I looked up, meeting his smiling eyes. My heart skipped a beat. That sudden, unexpected flutter. I quickly looked away, unable to hold his gaze, mumbling something about needing the bathroom again before escaping into the ensuite. Locking the door, I stared at my reflection in the mirror. My face was flushed, my eyes wide and flustered, a thin sheen of sweat on my forehead and nose. I was genuinely panicking. I'd crushed on him for so long, known of him for so long, but never interacted this closely. I was such a coward. Just seeing him smile at me like that sent my pulse racing, my thoughts scattering. I splashed cold water on my face, then studied my reflection again. The features were okay, reasonably defined, except for the persistent baby fat rounding out my cheeks and jawline. Compared to Serena's sculpted elegance, I felt lacking. After lingering in the bathroom for an acceptable amount of time, I theatrically flushed the toilet, took another deep breath and opened the door. To my relief, Ethan had fallen asleep. Good. Letting out a quiet sigh, I tiptoed over, poured a fresh glass of water, placed it on his bedside table, tucked his blanket more securely around him, and then lay down fully clothed on the caregiver cot. The room was quiet, filled only with the soft, steady rhythm of Ethan's breathing. He didn't snore, just a low, even sound confirming he was asleep. Lying there, hands pillowing my head, the situation felt surreal. The boy I'd adored from afar for so long was actually asleep in the same room. Felt like a dream. I slept remarkably well that night. Though in my dreams I vaguely sensed someone sitting by my bed, watching me, felt a gentle hand tucking my blanket tighter. When I woke again, the sun was high in the sky. A glance at my phone, yikes, almost 11. I blinked, hastily wiped a suspected drool spot from the corner of my mouth, and sat bolt upright. Only to find Ethan leaning against his headboard, watching me. Oh, kill me now. He had that same faint, amused smile on his face. Seeing me awake, his smile widened slightly. Morning. Morning. This felt incredibly strange, waking up to find my crush just a few feet away. Strangely wonderful. Checking the time again, I realized the morning rounds must have already happened. He'd probably been awake for a while. Worried he'd think I was lazy, I scrambled out of the cot. I'll just go wash up. Okay. Ethan chuckled. I ordered takeout, it should be here soon. Could you grab it downstairs when it arrives? No problem. I agreed readily and dashed into the bathroom to use the toiletries I'd bought the previous night. Perfect timing. Just as I finished, the delivery notification pinged. I went down to the lobby to collect the food. Opening the bags back in the room, I saw Ethan had ordered quite a spread. Braised pork belly, sweet and sour ribs, spicy diced chicken, all rich, hearty dishes. I surveyed the containers, confused. Are you allowed to eat things this greasy? Ethan fished a carton of clear soup out of the bag. I'll have this. He unwrapped a pair of disposable chopsticks and handed them to me. Taking the chopsticks, I heard him add casually, forgot to order rice. Just leave me whatever you don't finish. His tone was so matter-of-fact, as if sharing leftovers was completely normal. I froze. I can go buy another portion of rice. No need. He broke apart his own chopsticks, glanced down at his rather unappetizing clear soup, then sheepishly put the chopsticks back down. I shouldn't eat too much anyway. Just leave me a couple of bites. Unable to argue, I spooned half of my fresh rice into a spare bowl for him, then sat beside him on the edge of his bed to eat. I'd barely taken a few bites when a nurse came in with a new 4 bag. Ethan's face fell. Nurse, I don't have a fever anymore. Can we skip the drip today? Nope, the young nurse replied, giving him a mock stern look. At least one more bag. However, the same nurse, who had been joking with Ethan a second ago, turned distinctly frosty when she saw me. I'd sensed a strange hostility from her the previous night, and now it was undeniable. I stood up to get out of her way, but as she approached the bed, she deliberately leaned over to inspect the food on the table, then looked at me with a saccharine smile. Honey, all this food will make you gain weight easily. Take my advice, you're young, you should try to slim down a bit. Eat more salads, things like that. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Just some friendly advice, don't mind me. Her words, dripping with false concern, were clearly digs disguised as helpful suggestions. Color flooded my face, but the right retort wouldn't come. I felt flustered, embarrassed, mainly because the boy I'd secretly adored for a year was sitting right there, and my tongue-tied awkwardness left me defenseless. Just as my face was burning crimson, Ethan's voice cut through the tension. "Chloe, come here." "Chloe?" It took me a second to register he was calling me. I quickly moved to his side. As soon as I was close enough, Ethan reached out and took my hand. With a gentle pull, he drew me down towards him. The next moment, his warm hand cupped my cheek, giving it a light, affectionate pinch. His smiling face was close to mine. "Don't listen to her," he murmured. "It's just baby fat. It's cute." Then Ethan looked up at the young nurse, his smile still in place, but his eyes holding no warmth. "Nurse, let me offer you some friendly advice. Maybe consider gaining a little weight, adding some curves. Guys often aren't fans of stick-thin figures." He gave her another pointed smile. "Just friendly advice, don't mind me." I discovered a little secret about Ethan that day. He was terrified of needles. Ethan, known for his fighting prowess, the guy who hadn't uttered a peep when a group of construction workers fractured his leg with steel pipes, the guy who had just verbally eviscerated a nurse for me, whimpered and clutched my hand tightly when it was time for the injection. Then, trembling, he actually buried his face in my shoulder, seeking refuge. Perhaps the nurse couldn't bear the sight any longer, or maybe she was just done. She administered the injection quickly and left without further comment, tools in hand. Once the door clicked shut, I looked down at Ethan, still huddled against me like a frightened child. Only then did the proximity register. My face instantly flushed scarlet. "Ethan!" I exclaimed, gently pushing his head away from my chest. His ears were bright red, perhaps from the lingering fear of the needle. "Sorry," he mumbled, scratching the back of his head with his free hand. I got a bit nervous there." Even though he'd technically taken advantage of the situation, looking at that face I'd admired for so long, I couldn't bring myself to scold him. "It's okay," I said softly. "You stood up for me just now." Ethan touched the tip of his nose, acknowledging my words with a small sound. We ate lunch side by side on the bed after that. Sitting next to my crush, I tried to eat modestly, but the sweet and sour ribs were just so good. I couldn't resist having a couple more pieces. Turning my head, I found Ethan watching me intently. My face flushed again, my hand paused midair, still holding a rib bone. Ethan chuckled. "Chloe's, yeah, just watching you eat makes me feel hungry." Was that a compliment? Unsure, I could only manage a weak, non-committal laugh. "Really?" Ethan nodded, then asked, "Are those ribs really that good? Let me try." Before I could react, he leaned over, took hold of the half-eaten rib still in my hand, and took a bite directly from it. I froze. Suddenly, the rib in my hand lost all its appeal. I pressed my lips together, forcing myself to remain composed. Then I stared blankly at the violated rib, caught in a dilemma. Eat it? Wouldn't that seem too forward? Eating something a guy just bit off? Don't eat it? Would he think I was disgusted by him? I was trapped. But Ethan made the choice for me. He swallowed the bite, nodded in approval. They are good." Then, still holding my hand steady, he finished the rest of the rib. Immediately after, he picked up a meaty piece with his chopsticks and placed it in my bowl. "Eat more. You're not fat, you just have a little baby fat. Why diet?" I stared at the new piece of rib for a long moment, then asked seemingly out of nowhere, "Ethan, I heard you have mysophobia? A fear of germs/dirt. Ethan paused, then continued eating. "Yeah," he admitted after a moment. "But it depends on the person." It depends on the person. That slightly ambiguous, potentially intimate phrase sent my heart racing again. The rest of the meal passed in a blur, accompanied by the frantic pounding in my chest. After lunch, I quickly cleaned up, and then we both settled down for an afternoon nap. Him in his hospital bed, me on my caregiver cot, naturally. I wasn't sure how long I slept. When I opened my eyes, the room was quiet, filled only with the soft sound of Ethan's steady breathing. He wasn't snoring, just the low, even rhythm of deep sleep. Slipping out from under the blanket, I moved quietly to the chair beside his bed and sat down, careful not to wake him. Resting my chin on my hands, I simply watched him sleep. It was the first time since knowing him that I could observe him so closely, so openly, without fear of being caught. My gaze traced the lines of his face from his eyebrows and the corners of his eyes, down to his lips and jawline. I studied him boldly, taking in every detail. Living for 20-odd years, only now did I truly understand the meaning of acting involuntarily. After watching him for a long time, I found myself standing up, leaning slowly, inexplicably towards him for a kiss. The distance between us shrank. 10 centimeters, 9. Until I could feel the warmth of his breath on my skin. That very sensation, the heat of his breath, snapped me back to reality. Mortified, I recoiled. Was I possessed by some kind of succubus? What was I thinking? Before I actually made contact, I straightened up. But just as I was about to retreat back to my chair, the door behind me burst open violently. I spun around, startled, and found myself face to face with someone unexpected. Someone I knew but wasn't close to. Our campus belle, Serena. She stood there, arms crossed, having caught me red-handed in my near theft of a kiss. Her eyes raked over me. "Chloe's, yeah," she drawled, her voice dripping with contempt. "Faking confessions in Ethan's name was bad enough, but now you're resorting to stealing kisses while he sleeps? Teske, what a pathetic rival you turned out to be." I froze instantly. Every word she uttered landed like a physical blow, leaving me rigid with humiliation. My innate shyness and cowardice, coupled with being caught in such a compromising act, left me utterly speechless and immobile. Before me lay Ethan's sleeping face. I prayed silently, desperately, "Please don't wake up, please don't wake up." But it seemed the heavens weren't listening. The next moment, Ethan's eyes snapped open. They were clear, alert, showing none of the grogginess of someone just waking up. Then his voice echoed in the quiet room. "Who said it was stealing?" As he spoke, Ethan raised his hand, his palm gently cupping the back of my head. A slight pressure. Forced to bend forward, my lips met a sudden softness. My mind went utterly blank. Only when Ethan released me did I manage to regain some semblance of awareness. I scrambled upright, staring at him in stunned disbelief. Ethan didn't look at me. His expression was calm, though a faint, suspicious flush colored his cheeks. He pushed himself up to lean against the headboard, then finally looked towards the doorway, where Serena stood fuming, her face a mask of ugly anger. "I posted that confession," Ethan stated calmly. "Every word was true. I have been crushing on Chloe for a long time." He still didn't look at me, but his hand reached out, suddenly closing around my wrist. Then, his fingers interlaced with mine, his thumb brushing softly against the back of my hand. Everything happened so fast. Shocked and bewildered, I didn't dare utter a word, simply sat frozen beside him, enveloped in silence. I glanced back at Serena. Tsk. Her beautiful flower-like face was now distorted, turning an ugly shade of purple with rage. Her eyes darted between Ethan and me. Then a cold, humorless laugh escaped her. Arms crossed tightly, she sneered. "Ethan, I chased you and you turned me down. And this is what you prefer." As she spoke, she gestured vaguely with her hands, encompassing my general form. The implication was clear. Ethan rejected a perfect campus belle like her for a little fatty like me. Honestly, Serena's dismissive gesture, her blatant emphasis on my weight, stung deeply. But I couldn't find the words to retort. My weight was my long-standing point of insecurity. The truth was I'd been much heavier in high school. My current slightly chubby state was the result of countless sweaty hours spent exercising. But, ultimately, I'd only progressed from fatty to slightly chubby. Compared to Serena's slender, long limbs, my rounder arms and thighs felt like a joke. I couldn't defend myself, but Ethan had no such qualms. He responded with a cold smile, his grip on my hand tightening subtly. His words were brutal, offering no quarter. The fact that even someone with the title of campus belle couldn't make me like her says enough about your inner qualities. "You," Serena gasped, clearly unprepared for such a blunt, merciless counterattack. Her face twisted further. Faced with Ethan's unwavering dismissal, Serena finally let out a furious huff and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. As the door shut with a bang, her parting words drifted back through the gap. "I must have been blind." Ethan shrugged, casting a dismissive glance at the closed door before turning back to me. Our eyes met. Instantly, the memory of his sudden kiss flashed through my mind. My courage deserted me again. I quickly looked away. The next moment, his low chuckle reached my ears. "Why are you such a scaredy cat?" Startled, I looked up. Ethan was smiling at me. "From now on, I should just call you Chloe the coward." I probably was a coward. Meeting his smiling gaze, I instinctively tried to pull my hand away, then asked softly, "What you just said? Were you just saying that to provoke Serena, or?" Deep down I suspected the answer, but I still couldn't quite believe that Ethan, the boy I'd adored for so long, would choose me over the dazzling Serena Gao. Ultimately, it boiled down to my own ingrained self-doubt. Ethan sighed, then tightened his grip on my hand again. Not only a coward but pretty dense too, huh? He was teasing me, yet his tone was filled with affection. His palm felt warm against mine, the heat seemingly intensifying. Then his fingers tightened further, pulling me closer. Losing my balance, I stumbled forward, landing against his chest. My lips brushed against his again. Ethan's kiss was light, fleeting, like the touch of a butterfly's wings. He pulled back slightly, his eyes sparkling, filled with laughter. "Now," he murmured, his voice soft but resonant. "Is it clear?" His voice, laced with amusement, was quiet, yet the words landed with undeniable weight. I stared into his eyes so close, his question echoing in my mind. "Now is it clear?" My lips still tingled with the ghost of his touch. I gently touched them with my fingertips. Yet, I suppose it was clear. I sat there on the edge of the hospital bed, stunned into silence for a long time, before I could finally process the unbelievable reality. Ethan liked me back. Tentatively, I voiced my lingering doubt. "But that day, I definitely saw Serena holding your arm." Ethan paused, then realization dawned. "You mean that day at the cafeteria?" I nodded. I had clearly seen her link her arm through his as they turned the corner. Ethan immediately sat up straighter, looking genuinely alarmed. I swear, the second she grabbed my arm, I pushed her away. It didn't last more than a second, I promise. I studied his face for a moment. He looked completely sincere, his gaze earnest. It was impossible not to believe him. "Okay. But the rumor said your leg, you got injured fighting over her." I gently patted his casted leg. Ethan looked genuinely baffled. "Who said that?" "Everyone's saying it." "Bullshit." Ethan swore vehemently. "They're spreading nonsense. The truth is, some idiot was insulting you in the comments under that confession post. I tracked him down and taught him a lesson. What does that have to do with Serena?" This time it was my turn to be stunned. "So, the fight was because someone insulted me?" "Really?" "Of course." Ethan squeezed my hand, his thumb tracing patterns on my skin again. "I check the comments on that post every day. Anyone who said anything bad about you, I'd privately message them and chew them out." "Seriously?" I found it hard to believe. Or rather, I wanted to believe it, but it felt too good to be true. That the boy I'd secretly crushed on for a year had been secretly defending me like that. "Of course it's true." He picked up his phone, opened his photo gallery, and showed me a screenshot. "Didn't you notice this comment back then?" I leaned closer to look. It did look familiar. Yes, I remembered seeing it. The comment saying they'd noticed Ethan treated me specially and suspected he liked me. I stared at the screenshot, then asked hesitantly, "So this account, it's yours?" But the profile picture was female. Ethan shook his head. "It's my roommate's alternate account. I made him post that comment." I looked up at him, blinking. "So, you've been crushing on me all this time?" The question was blunt, perhaps too direct. Ethan paused for a second, then a slow smile spread across his face. "Yeah." He admitted it simply, directly. The next moment, a warmth brushed against my earlobe. He'd kissed me there, quickly, softly. My ears instantly burned hot. I was speechless. That evening, I went to the cafeteria and bought nourishing soup for Ethan. As for myself, I bought nothing. Back in the room, I set the soup down. Ethan glanced at the empty space in front of me on the small table and frowned instantly. "Are you out of money?" He immediately reached for his phone to transfer me funds, muttering, "Being a caregiver is hard work, you have to eat." Quickly stopped him. "No, it's not that," I said softly. "I just don't really have an appetite." As I spoke, I nervously fidgeted with the hem of my shirt. Ethan seemed to understand something. He sighed deeply. "Chloe, I don't want you to lose weight." I forced a laugh, denying it. "I'm not dieting. Really, I'm just not hungry." But Ethan wasn't easily fooled. While I was briefly in the bathroom, he ordered another round of takeout. When I came out, he was patiently unpacking containers on the table. The aroma wafted out instantly. All my favorite dishes. I inhaled deeply, swallowing hard. They were all my favorites, yes, but they were also all high-calorie. I genuinely hadn't planned on eating. Being with Ethan felt like I'd won the lottery. I'd crushed on him for nearly a year without ever daring to confess, mainly because deep down I lacked confidence. Even knowing Ethan had flaws, he still felt like the moon in the sky to me. Beautiful, distant, unattainable. But now that moon had somehow fallen into the water, close enough to see, to touch, even belonging to me. Felt insecure. Worried I wasn't good enough for him. Especially after the recent comments from the nurse and Serena, their words echoed constantly in my mind. Being naturally sensitive and prone to insecurity, those remarks festered, making it hard to let go. But Ethan was persistent. Using a combination of coercion and temptation, he refused to let me diet. Finally, he resorted to using his injured leg as leverage, guilt-tripping me until I reluctantly agreed to eat. However, the moment the rich, savory braised pork melted in my mouth, the pure pleasure quickly overshadowed the guilt. Pathetic, truly pathetic. The next few days followed a routine. Attend classes, then rush to the hospital to dutifully play caregiver to Ethan. Since a fracture mostly requires rest, the doctor discharged him after a few days. On the day of his discharge, Ethan somehow procured a pair of crutches. After getting out of the taxi, he hobbled awkwardly towards the campus entrance. Though apprehensive about the potential stares and whispers, I was more worried he might fall, so I stayed close, supporting him. And naturally, the saying enemies often cross paths proved eternally true. At the school gate, we ran straight into Serena. We had barely taken a few steps from the taxi when the door of a luxury car parked nearby opened, and Serena emerged, arm in arm with another guy. I couldn't help but stare. It had only been a few days since her dramatic hospital visit where she seemed so devoted to Ethan. Now she was clinging to a short, flashy man dripping with gold jewelry, radiating nouveau riche vibes. Serena, teetering on high heels, walked straight towards us, blocking our path. Her eyes swept over us, then settled on Ethan with a cold smile. Ethan, ruining yourself like this over a woman. Was it worth it? Without waiting for his reply, she shifted her gaze to me, subjecting me to a thorough, disdainful up-and-down assessment. She covered her mouth with her hand, stifling a fake laugh, her tone dripping with mockery. You've gotten even rounder lately, haven't you? Friendly advice. You really should lose some weight. Men are visual creatures, you know. Ethan might be interested now out of novelty, but soon enough, he'll get tired of your chubbiness. Her words, couched as concern, were laced with unmistakable superiority. Ethan was right. I was cowardly and tongue-tied. In the past, this kind of attack would leave me blushing furiously, retreating into silence, then spending days and nights agonizing over it. But maybe being around Ethan these past few days had rubbed off on me a little. Before I even consciously decided, my hand had linked through Ethan's arm, and I was smiling sweetly at Serena. Novelty is better than nothing, right? Serena, I heard you chased Ethan for half a year, and couldn't even get his WeChat contact. This juicy tidbit, of course, came directly from Ethan. As expected, Serena's face instantly changed color. I smiled wider, tightening my grip on Ethan's arm. Sorry, but your words just sound sour. Extremely sour. Serena's expression shifted rapidly, but she couldn't refute it. Finally, she just tightened her grip on her companion's arm. Let's go. A broke loser and a fatty. Not worth our time. With that, she dragged the man back to the luxury car, slammed the door shut, and sped away. Only after the car disappeared did I slowly lower my gaze. Suddenly, a light tap on the tip of my nose made me look up. It was Ethan's finger. Not bad, Chloe the coward, he grinned. You weren't cowardly at all just now. I smiled back but didn't say anything. Honestly, it was mostly because I didn't want to embarrass myself further in front of the guy I liked. But getting rid of Serena didn't mean getting rid of everyone else. So many others. Maybe it was just my paranoia, but walking through the campus gate with Ethan leaning on me, I felt acutely aware of the stares. Every glance felt judgmental, unfriendly, or mocking. The further we walked, the more anxious I became. Suddenly, a warm hand enveloped mine. Ethan's. I looked up at him. He offered a gentle smile. Don't be nervous, he said softly. You don't have that big an audience. Neither do I. I'm not as famous as you think. 80% of the people walking by have no idea who I am. They're probably staring because of this. He tapped his crutch on the ground. Not because of you. He grinned. If you saw a handsome guy hobbling around campus on crutches, Wouldn't you look twice too? His teasing made me laugh and I nodded. Though truthfully, even without the crutches I would always notice him in a crowd. In the following weeks, under Ethan's regime of affectionate force-feeding, not only did I fail to lose weight, but I actually gained a few pounds. My roommates jokingly called it happiness fat. But happiness fat was still fat. I found it increasingly difficult to accept. Ethan was right, he wasn't the campus heartthrob, his notoriety wasn't as widespread as I imagined, but he definitely wasn't unknown either. Being with him, I inevitably overheard negative comments. Without fail, no one called me ugly. Their target was always my weight. I tried desperately not to let it get to me, but I couldn't help but mind. The insecurity gnawed at me. Especially one evening when Ethan brought my absolute favorite fried chicken. Under his usual combination of insistence and charm, I succumbed and ate way too much. Later that night, back in the dorm, staring at my increasingly round face in the mirror, I felt disgusted, greasy. I leaned over the toilet and suddenly vomited. From that day on, I discovered a new terrible trick for weight loss: induced vomiting. In front of Ethan, I'd obediently eat whatever he offered. He loved watching me eat, his expression soft, his smile gentle, and I, no longer denying myself, would eat happily. But back in the dorm, I would secretly kneel by the toilet, forcing myself to throw up, then drag my empty stomach to the track for punishing runs. After maintaining this horrific routine for a while, the results were undeniable. I lost weight noticeably. One day, eating spicy hot pot at the cafeteria, Ethan placed a sausage from his bowl into mine, his brow furrowed. "Chloe, have you lost weight?" My hand holding my chopsticks paused. Outwardly I feigned nonchalance, but inwardly I was ecstatic. "Really?" I put down my chopsticks, turning my head side to side for his inspection. "Do I look prettier?" Ethan studied me seriously for a moment, then pressed his lips together. "Chloe, I don't need you to lose weight. Honestly, I really loved the Chloe who enjoyed food, who laughed so easily. Just seeing her would brighten my day, make the world seem better." He paused, his brow furrowing slightly. "But now, I bring you all sorts of delicious food every day, and you don't seem as happy anymore." Was I not as happy? Maybe he was right. It wasn't Ethan's fault or how he treated me. He was incredibly kind. The problem was mine. My insecurity, my sensitivity. Since getting together with Ethan, I'd become obsessed with the idea of dropping 20 pounds overnight, becoming tall and slender like Serena, standing proudly beside him. That day marked our first real argument, albeit a quiet one. I refused to admit my desperate dieting efforts, and he looked at me with worried eyes, unsure what to say. The next morning, Ethan was waiting downstairs by my dorm as usual, holding a bag of my favorite soup dumplings from that specific shop. We made up just like that. But Ethan didn't know. My secret purging continued. We explored countless highly rated restaurants together. And each time afterwards I would secretly make myself sick and then punish myself with laps around the track. Until one day, after purging and during my run, I collapsed on the field. When I opened my eyes, the first thing I saw was Ethan, sitting vigilantly by my bedside. His eyelids were dark, bruised-looking, his eyes shot with red veins. He looked utterly exhausted and distressed. Our eyes met. Raw emotion swam in his gaze. "Chloe the coward," he whispered, his voice thick. "You scared the hell out of me." I pushed myself up, managing a weak smile. "I'm fine." But as I spoke, I realized something was wrong. Why was my voice so hoarse? Before I could ask, Ethan started explaining, his expression turning stern. He gripped my hand tighter than usual, enough to hurt slightly. I frowned but didn't pull away. "The doctor told me," Ethan said, his voice low and serious. "They suspect you've been inducing vomiting regularly. It's caused gastroesophageal reflux, and your throat is damaged." Hearing the word vomiting, I flinched, averting my eyes, saying nothing. Ethan watched me silently for a long moment. I braced myself for accusations, for anger. Instead, he let out a long, heavy sigh, pulled his chair closer to the bed, and produced a mirror from somewhere, setting it up in front of me. I instinctively tried to turn away, but he gently held my shoulders steady. He sat down on the edge of the bed, one hand resting lightly on my shoulder, the other holding the mirror. "Chloe, take a good look in this mirror. Is this face really ugly? Where? Show me where it's ugly." His tone was firm, almost demanding. Hesitantly, I complied, forcing myself to look. Honestly, the face in the mirror, aside from the persistent baby fat, had no major flaws. My eyes were large and round, my nose bridged straight, the tip delicate, lips full, teeth white. Ethan leaned closer, looking into the mirror with me. Is it ugly? I slowly shook my head. But then my gaze drifted down under the blanket to my legs. They still looked thick compared to what I wanted. The familiar wave of dissatisfaction washed over me. Ethan noticed my gaze shift. He reached down and gave my leg a gentle squeeze through the blanket. So what if there's a little meat on your bones? Feels nice. I didn't reply, just silently pushed his hand away. Ethan tucked the blanket back around me, then he lifted the corner of the blanket and slid into the bed beside me. Ethan! I gasped, startled, but he didn't stop, just settled comfortably beside me, his arm resting loosely around my waist. He gave the soft flesh there another gentle squeeze. It's okay, he murmured. I got you a private room. The nurses finished rounds and the doors locked. Hearing that, I stopped struggling, but being this close to him for the first time sent my heart into overdrive. Ethan held me close, sighing again. It's my fault. He buried his face in the curve of my neck. I shouldn't have kept buying you all that rich, high-calorie food. Shouldn't have pushed you to eat under the guise of caring, ignoring how you felt. I didn't mean any harm, Chloe. I just wanted to show you through actions that you're not fat at all. And even if I did fatten you up, I'd still like you. His cheek rubbed gently against my neck, tickling slightly. Do you know why I never confessed my feelings before? I shook my head. I truly didn't. I hadn't confessed because of my insecurity. But Ethan? Surely he wasn't insecure. Of course he wasn't. But he said, because I was scared. Scared you wouldn't be happy with me. You didn't know, but I watched you from afar for a long time. I knew you were sensitive, knew you felt self-conscious about your figure. I knew all of it, but I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't know if you felt anything for me either, so I didn't dare confess abruptly. I was afraid I'd scare you away. I listened quietly, his strong heartbeat a steady rhythm against my ear. A sense of peace settled over me. Chloe Xia. Ethan called my name softly, then lifted his head. He gently cupped my face with both hands and gave my lips a quick, soft kiss. Maybe my methods were wrong before, he whispered. But I just wanted you to know I really truly like you. I want you to be happy. Whether you're heavier or slimmer, to me you're just you. If your weight makes you unhappy, then starting today, I'll help you lose weight. But we'll do it scientifically. No more hurting your body. His tone softened further, like coaxing a child. Okay. Okay? I whispered back, a smile blooming inside me, filling the empty spaces. Promise me no more purging. It's incredibly harmful. Okay. And Ethan gently stroked my hair. Everyone's body is different, and beauty comes in different forms. I can help you lose weight, but you can't be overly critical of yourself. Throughout history, curvy figures and slender figures have both been considered beautiful. Not every girl needs to weigh 90 pounds, and not every guy prefers bony figures. I listened quietly as he continued patiently. I'm agreeing to help you lose weight because I don't want you secretly harming yourself anymore. Doesn't mean I want you to lose weight. What I want more is for you, whether heavier or slimmer, to happily accept yourself. To love yourself. He chuckled softly, stealing another quick kiss. The way I love you. Epilogue. My name is Chloe Xia. It's been over a month since that last hospital stay. My weight has only dropped by about 2 pounds. But everyone around me says I seem like a completely different person. Yes, I still have the same face, slightly rounded with baby fat but generally pretty, and my figure is still best described as slightly chubby. However, during this time, Ethan has meticulously managed my diet, preventing both restrictive dieting and binge eating. Every evening he accompanies me to the track for a run. Well, technically, since his leg is still healing, I run, while he sits on the sidelines shouting encouragement. With a balanced diet of healthy foods and regular, moderate exercise, my overall complexion and energy levels have improved dramatically. And, thanks to Ethan, my years of crippling self-doubt have slowly begun to dissipate. He actually researched fashion and styling specifically for my body type, buying me clothes that cleverly accentuate my positives and minimize perceived flaws. I still look curvy, pleasantly rounded, but I no longer feel like the little fatty. My roommates agree, there's a definite change in my aura. I'm gradually shedding the skin of my past insecurities. I walk taller now, head held high, meeting people's eyes directly. Compared to before, I haven't lost much weight, but I've started to accept the person I am right now. I know this transformation is almost entirely due to Ethan. It was his unwavering patience, his constant affirmations whispered in my ear. I love you. It was him telling me, gently but firmly, that I was good, truly good, that I deserved all the happiness in the world. He helped me understand. Beauty comes in all shapes and sizes. There's nothing wrong with wanting to manage your weight. But what's more important is learning to appreciate and accept yourself. I love him. And I'm incredibly grateful to him. Oh, by the way, I heard Serena got dumped by that flashy short heir. She apparently returned to campus looking rather dejected, and hasn't been seen around much since. Later, we had professional couple photos taken. In front of the camera, I held Ethan's hand confidently, smiling directly at the lens. The evening the photo album arrived after saying goodnight to Ethan, I was idly scrolling through my phone feeds. Unexpectedly, I saw myself on the campus confession page. More accurately, I saw photos of Ethan and me. Our couple photos laughing on the grass, holding hands under twinkling lights. Ethan had posted them, with only one sentence. He wrote, I hope my girl is always happy. Remembering the previous debacle, I hesitated before scrolling down to the comments. But to my surprise, there were hardly any negative remarks. It was overwhelmingly filled with messages of blessing and support. I read through them for a long time, smiling softly to myself. Finally, I added my own comment. I hope we're always happy.